mental resilience means the ability to take a punch, fall back on the ropes, and then come back again. If I can take a boxing metaphor, essentially it means that it's not the body blow physically, but in the mind. In today's jargon, it would mean having a growth mindset. You get pushed back, you absorb that shock, but you come back stronger, better, and ready for the future. I have a concept which I used to call controlled adversity. You don't throw them off a cliff, but you let them fall small. Get up. Resilience has to come from the concept of a setback. If all is going well, there will never be resilience. If I've never known a setback, therefore we must build in setbacks into the growing up years of a child.
Welcome to the Learning Circle, the ultimate video podcast for educators and parents who want to unleash the full potential of children. Join us as we explore the fascinating world of learning with the help of thought leaders who will share their knowledge and stories with us. This is your host Kavleen Kaur, and I'm excited to take you on this journey. Get ready to be inspired, informed, and entertained. Welcome to the Learning Circle. Today we are tackling one of the most pressing challenges facing educators and parents today: how to develop true mental resilience in their children. Our guest today brings a unique perspective. Lieutenant General Surendra Kulkarni, a decorated military leader, he has taught at various defense institutions and now contributes to civilian education. But what makes today's conversation extra special is his insight that leadership, not just grit, is the key to building mental resilience. Welcome to the Learning Circle, General Kulkarni.
Thank you, Kavleen. Thank you very much.
Before we dive in, sir, when you hear the word mental resilience, what does it mean to you?
Well, mental resilience means the ability to take a punch, fall back on the ropes, and then come back again. If I can take a boxing metaphor, essentially it means that you need to be, it's not the body blow physically, but in the mind. In today's jargon, it would mean having a growth mindset. You get pushed back, you absorb that shock, but you come back stronger, better, and ready for the future.
Okay, so that's a brief but very powerful definition. You have shared that you believe the key to building it is building the leadership skills. So help us understand, if we are talking about, let's say, a 10-year-old, why building leadership skills is more effective than the traditional mental resilience building techniques that we have been following.
You know, where grit is concerned, there is a famous TED talk by psychologist Angela Lee Duckworth, which has identified that in the long run for success, grit is a key ingredient. But that's a very long-term perspective. When we are dealing with 10-year-olds, we have to see what can we do today. The success from grit comes much later, but you need to build up resilience now to have grit. So, whereas the enthusiasm in 10-year-olds is almost always there, endurance is rare. And here also I'm quoting another famous psychologist, Carol Dweck. She is also very well known. That to be able to put long-term endurance, you have to build up resilience. And to build up this resilience, you have to provide leadership opportunities to young children. The reason being that when they are the leader, responsibility comes on them. When responsibility comes on them, success is not automatically guaranteed. What happens in a family setting or in a school setting, we tend to be protective. And we try to make a child seemingly succeed all the time. Whereas in the real world, that will not happen. So therefore, for a 10-year-old, you have to teach them leadership in a manner that they must know that coming first every time is not possible. Winning every time is not possible. So I used to have a concept which I used to call controlled adversity. You don't throw them off a cliff, but you let them fall small, get up, and find that you see it as very small children, 1-year-olds. They try and stand and walk, and then they fall down and they stand and walk. If the mother comes running to catch them, they'll start crying. If nobody is looking, they'll get up and try again. So you have to create an atmosphere of controlled adversity around the child where you're not being reckless or taking undue risks. At the same time, teaching a child to take responsibility, that is the crux of leadership. And the second aspect of leadership they learn young, if you give them chances, is the concept of sacrifice. Leadership comes with sacrifice. You have to give up something for a larger good.
Right. And I think that is the way nature has actually designed all of us, especially the young children. They do take risks, measured risks, and sometimes, of course, they go beyond that also. But like you said, we parents have this tendency to rush in at the slightest fall or an injury or a failure, and we try to make them successful all the time. So that is not really the path to build resilience, as you said. And these two qualities that are built by practicing leadership, which is responsibility and sacrifice, they are both contributing to mental toughness, if I understand it correctly, sir, right?
Yes, because you see, in mental toughness, there are two, three facets. One facet is the feeling that the buck stops here. So when you're a child, there is a tendency in the family that you look over the shoulder and someone takes care of you. Whereas
Right,
if you start teaching leadership, you say, no, the buck stops with you.
right,
Right or wrong, uh, we, based on, you'll see the consequences later, but you need to take a decision now. So over a period of time, they get smarter and smarter with decision making because they realize what works and what doesn't work. But they know that the buck stops with them. That's one. The second
right,
thing, which is very important for young children to learn, is that a leader is no one without a follower, and therefore you have to work in a group, right? And you will not always be the leader. Sometimes you'll be the leader, sometimes you will not be the leader, and you have to work in both conditions. So when you are a follower, if you observe carefully or you make them observe carefully, then as a leader they will learn how to get things done out of people. Everyone doesn't willingly contribute 100%.
right,
The skill in leadership lies in getting the parts of your team to perform larger than the whole must be larger than the sum of, I mean, the sum must be more than the parts of it. And kids must learn how to exploit the best out of their colleagues, which is what you also do in business, whether you're a manager or a CEO or whatever. You have to get the best out of your team, but you can
right,
start learning it very, very young and small.
right. Very true. Thinking that the buck stops with you helps build the agency in young kids. And we can do this with very young children by giving them the agency for, completing their own homework, packing their own bags rather than helping them out. And
Yeah,
if they have to face the consequences of a incomplete homework or a bag not packed properly, they will learn over a period of time that, this is what they have to own.
I used to apply this in the school, and that is how we discovered that giving the youngest children chances helped. And it also had other spin-offs, which was the third
Hmm.
thing I want to say, that it that they learn the value of speaking up. You see, very often silence can be complicity. So you say, look, if I you don't speak up, but when you talk to the person, they'll say, look, if I had to do it, I'd do it this way. But then you please speak up.
Hmm.
Because if you speak up, you are contributing to that organization. Every time your idea may not be accepted, but you also learn other skills. You learn negotiation. You learn the art of convincing people, right? All these come handy in the real world when you grow up. After all, what is
Right,
sales? You learn what is a bright idea that works, which wasn't so obvious to others. And you position something differently. I mean, that's marketing. I mean, there are so many things kids learn without having the words or the jargon for it. But
right,
they're learning around themselves. You see, today
right,
everyone talks about teaching them financial literacy and all that. Well, that can be taught in small ways at any age. So, same way, uh, resilience has to come from the concept of a setback. If all is going well, there will never be resilience. If I've never known a setback, therefore,
mm,
we must build in setbacks into the growing up years of a child. Very often, parents are very keen that everything should run smoothly for a child. The child should never be wanting for anything. Whereas they forget their own days or their parents' days. And perhaps they struggle to become what they became.
Right.
It's out of that struggle and the lessons that came, and the lessons are individualistic. They are generic in nature, but the lessons learned and what is stuck with you is individualistic. You can't read a book and learn the lessons.
Right. So probably the modern parenting is doing a kind of a disservice to their kids by being overprotective, by being always there for them, and shielding them from all failures. So that is not the right way to go.
Lighter vein, I say this is their way of blaming their parents. That means obviously their parents didn't bring them up right. So they think the parents ने गलती करी है, हम ठीक करेंगे. No, the parents did it right. It was tough when you are young and these things happen. It is tough.
Yes.
You don't want to deny your child anything. You don't
Mm,
want to make the child ever feel small. But at the same time, you have to teach your child that you can't be good at everything. But each of you is unique, and therefore allow those talents to come out. As they say, ubarne do. Don't try and impose something on them. Because otherwise,
mm,
parents are imposing their worldview on the child.
mm.
See, whereas the child is living in a different era, in a different live and virtual environment. The virtual environment didn't exist for their parents, right? And then they have to navigate through this. Parents try and assist them without understanding how this world is running.
Right.
So, so therefore, if you have to bring in resilience into your child, then you have to do it by providing him or her leadership opportunities, which the parents can watch. The parents can guide, parents can help, but parents cannot tell, parents cannot dictate, parents cannot control, because then the
Right.
long term consequences are of some form of inadequacy in the child in the long run.
Yes, I read an article about young adults being in a state of an infancy where they are dependent on others, the adults and others completely because they haven't learned the art of agency, of owning their own self, their own thinking, their thoughts, and the very first setback that they get, it just crumbles them.
I-
So
I've
what
had
you
the I've had the opportunity to tell a mother once who said, "No, no, but my son is so small, he needs my help." I said, "Okay,
mm,
then you keep him the way he is, but then you must promise to accompany him as part of his dowry when he gets married. You have to let him go.
mm,
And also, you must teach your child it is not wrong to ask for help. When
mm,
they reach teenage years, there is a reluctance to ask for help. They can ask help from their friends, but they won't ask for help from parents. And that is the worst period in a child's life when a parent thinks they know everything about the child, and the child thinks the parents know nothing about me.
right.
That is the crucial time when resilience comes handy, that the child knows what is appropriate, what is inappropriate growing up the first 10, 12 years of their life,
Mm,
and therefore does not get swayed either by peer pressure or by the current fad that is going around.
mm. Yeah, really thankful that you brought up these teenage years because they are very crucial. And whatever we do leading up to that age is going to set the groundwork, the foundation of how these teenage years pan out. And if the agency is not developed, then definitely it is going to be tough because they are not going to come back running to the parents, definitely. And so the dots are connecting that if we build these leadership skills, agency, responsibility early on in the younger years, then the teenage years and of course beyond are going to be smoother, right? So you have a lot of experience in teaching and have been around children and even young officers. So all this, what you are sharing, comes from experience. But I would like you to go back to your own early days, sir, and share the scenario wherein you had to develop these skills, the leadership skills.
When I was growing up through school and college, in those days, you got many leadership opportunities, but the challenges you faced in those days were not as complex as today, right? For example, I mean, I studied in a boarding school. Parents dropped me there and then didn't see me again in school again. So there was no parental interference. There was a certain culture of respecting the school authorities. That if the school authority said something, the parents sided with the school authority and not with the child. A
Okay.
major change that has happened now. So therefore, what happens is that um, we learned to accept what we thought were setbacks and not go crying and complaining to our parents. Because if we complained about the school, we would get into double trouble. First from the school and then from parents who would say, look, if the school has sent us a telegram or a letter, there must be something wrong with you, not with the school. Today, not all, but at times parents tend to blame the school for everything, that their child is perfect, their child can do no wrong. And in so doing, they don't realize they're sowing the seeds of harm for their own child. I'm not saying the school is always right. If the school has done something wrong, it must be held accountable. But uh, you spend you send your child to a school for X number of hours or in a boarding school for months on end. You are sending the child on the premise of trust. If you don't trust your child in a particular school, you should pull the child out. If you put the
Right.
child, then you must trust them. Just like you are to be trusted with your child, you must also trust your teachers, principals, and others with your child. And hope and understand that they will try and do the best for that child that they can, right? And therefore, if the child needs any guidance, correction, then it is in the good interest of the child and they should work with the school authorities. The parents and the school need to have a partnership. Then only you're both working for the same child. Then it can succeed. If you're at confrontation with each other, then you're not doing good for the child. And if the child is growing up and is smart, the child learns to exploit this gap. When it suits them, they will go with the school. When it suits them, they'll go with their parents. So they are learning manipulative skills. They're not learning leadership, nor
Right.
are they learning resilience in the true sense. So the other thing that happened was, so when I finally joined the army, then the sense of responsibility suddenly struck at me. But that I was accountable for the lives of X number of soldiers. Then it struck me, it's not about me anymore. I'm just the nominal head of an organization, that time a small body of troops. I was very young myself. And I suddenly realized I have responsibility for everything. And of course, at that point in time, we didn't go to war. But had we gone to war, I would have been answerable for their lives as well. Now, which in business terms you would call a full liability contract, so to speak.
Right.
You understand? A limitless, unlimited liability contract, not an LLP. So that suddenly strikes you that, look, if you are responsible, then I said, then you also have to sacrifice for them. See, that cannot happen overnight because you flip a switch. You have to grow into this by understanding right from your childhood that you are there, you are important, but you are living in a community, so the community is important. So that's why, as I said, at young age, you give them leadership opportunities. They realize that they are accountable and responsible for other people also, maybe 3 other boys or girls. It doesn't matter. But they are learning it gradually. And at each level, the nature of leadership changes. For example, if you're say I'm a young lieutenant, then I have to be a very hands-on person, physically good at all the things that the soldiers do and technically as sound as them and everything. But let's say if I become a lieutenant general, I don't have to go and drive the tank myself. Seen, but I have to understand how the forces can be applied, right? How to buffer them from the adverse effects of whether it is circumstances, enemy, whatever it is. So the nature of leadership keeps shifting as you go along. But the sense of responsibility for others, the need to sacrifice some of part of yourself for the larger good for others. It need not be in the military alone. In any sphere of, you have to have that mindset. Otherwise, then it's all for about you, and others don't matter. So the approach is different. I mean, leadership, as seen by us in the military, is a different thing. It's not that the non-performers, the troublemakers, and all should be just tolerated blindly. Not that, but by saying this is my team and I have to make the best of it, you work very hard to make sure that you get the best out of them.
Right.
See, and not say that, okay, either just give me a performer, otherwise I can't do my job.
Mm.
You give me an A team, then I'll do my work. No. You'll get the team you have, and you have to do
Yeah.
this. The same happens with children in school. If you're a topper and you're the leader, you will not get all toppers around you, but your team has to do well with guys who are. But everybody has some unique skills. You have to be observant. You have to see what each one brings to the table. So somebody in a band, somebody's a good singer, somebody's a good drummer. Everyone can't be the same, and you learn these things, and you have to expose children to this. And one day the lead singer will be, unwell or something, and the band still has to perform. They have to
Right.
find solutions around it. One day they suddenly find they go on stage, the mic is not working. Then what?
Yeah.
Right? These are small, seems very negligible, but they teach you life lessons. I have seen a young kid doing this on the stage. There were 3, 4 mics, and there were 4, 5 guys standing in front of them and speaking. When his turn came, his mic didn't work. Nobody told him anything. No one had taught him anything. He just stepped 3 steps to the side, went in front of the other mic, said his lines, and stepped back again.
Mm.
Okay. Now he learned a lesson for life. But that
Right.
lesson would not have been learned if the mics had never failed.
Yeah.
See, so that is my point I'm trying to make. So when you get a sense of responsibility, things start falling in place. But
Mm.
you cannot suddenly acquire a sense of responsibility overnight. You must start acquiring it from childhood.
Yes. So that's
As
a
you said,
very crucial
got to
point.
back, you come back. You have to have a sense of responsibility. You must get up every day. You must have a sense of responsibility, right? Uh, in fact, there's a very famous lecture, now a book by a great American, I think, admiral, who's said, if you want to be successful, start your day by making your own bed.
Yes, that's a very powerful speech. Yes.
Admiral McCraven. He said, look, you make your own bed so that at least at the end of the day, when you come back, you come back to lie down in a clean, neat bed. So at least your day will end on a good note. But that was more than that, lessons on discipline, responsibility, and things like that. That if you start your day disciplined, you'll remain disciplined the whole day.
Right. So you already get a head start, and that's a very crucial lesson that there is no child is too young to start taking responsibility and practicing these leadership skills. One crucial aspect that you said, which is common sense, but we always miss it as parents, is that you don't suddenly start growing into a leadership once you have given that title. You have to have practiced these skills, developed it over a period of time, and starting it at school and also at home is the key to develop it by the time you reach the level when you can contribute to the society. And the example you told about a young child moving 4 steps away to another mic since his own was not working is very, very small, but is very significant. If he had not done this, the opposite of what would have happened, the program would have stopped, and adult would have come forward to fix the
And
problem for them.
he would have disrupted all the other performers also. Please
Yes.
remember,
Yes.
it was not only
Yes.
his failure, it would have been a collective failure because of one person.
Yes.
So he saved the day not only for himself, he saved the day for others. That is leadership.
Yes. That is leadership. Yes. And that is taking responsibility for the collective, not just the individual. And this is very important in today's time. Like you said, that we are having this capitalist culture. We are also having, especially in this AI internet age, we are also having this trend of solo entrepreneurs who are just working in isolation at their homes, not interacting with the world, and somehow they are spreading the message that just being good in your own profession is enough, and there's no need to develop community skills. So I think the message has to go to youngsters that whatever profession, even if you are working as a solopreneur, but being part of the community, being responsible for others is very crucial. And I think parents and educators can play a critical role there.
Yes, yes, a very big role.
Yes. And since we are talking about parents and educators playing a role there, so there has to be a bit of leadership qualities that these people also need to learn and demonstrate and practice. So it's a kind of a dual leadership that we are looking forward to. The kids developing these leadership skills, and they are guided by the adults who are practicing these skills themselves. Is
Yeah,
my
and they
interpretation.
also they also need to keep refining their skills. Let's say you're a
Mm,
teacher, you're 30 years old, you're a teacher.
mm,
You one day will rise to leadership positions in your school. you also have to prepare yourself. The kind of leadership you provided in your classroom to one class is not the same that you will provide to a whole school, say as director
Right.
academics or as principal or whatever. The same goes with parents. The way you parent a 4-year-old, 8-year-old, 12-year-old, 16-year-old is all different. So you also have to evolve in your parenting journey in a manner that you remain relevant to the child. What happens is you are a very good parent when the child is 4.
Mm.
You're still good at 8. By the time the child is 12, you lose the child
Yeah. Yeah. That
because
happens most
you're
of the
still
time.
trying the same old techniques, same old tricks, which the child is not working on the child anymore.
Right. Right. So we have clearly established why leadership is the key, is the path to go to develop mental resilience. And you have also shared a few examples of how to do that, letting the child have agency and letting him practice on small things, let him face failures, don't step in to make him successful all the time. There is a question from our audience, Mr. Rajiv Agarwal, that what are the methods used in defense services to build mental toughness, and what can educators and parents take from those techniques to help children develop these skills?
Yeah, see, first, the most visible form of creating toughness in the armed forces is in the physical training. You
Mm,
are put through very tough, adverse situations. You are pushing the limits of your body endurance, uh, your body skills. That's the physical side. But let us say when you're tired, exhausted, and your body is no more cooperating, you don't want to take the next step forward. It is the mind that pushes you to the next step.
mm,
So, not giving up. There's a famous saying, which is never give in, never give up. So that is instilled in them that look, okay, doesn't matter. You may be coming last, you may be taking more time than what is stipulated, but you will not stop by on the way. You will not say, okay, I have given up, because you cannot do this. And you will see later on, wherever there are tales of valor and other things, those people have gone beyond, above and beyond the call of what is expected of a normal human being,
yeah,
and they pulled out that last little extra ounce from somewhere. That last extra ounce comes out of the body, but it's being directed by the brain, by the mind. The mind who says, look, I'm not stopping, come what may. You get me? So, therefore, it starts with the physical endurance. But during physical endurance, a culture is created that, look, you cannot be left behind. You have to move on. You cannot give up. Uh, and it's also very often, let's say we have these cross country races, you run as a group. So for your squadron or your company or whatever. So if you stop, because the result is calculated cumulatively. So if you
mm,
stop, one person can undo the work of, say, 100 others or 80
yeah,
others.
right,
So if need be, then there are other things come in, camaraderie, collaboration and all. Maybe two other guys will run alongside you. Your legs are hardly moving. They're holding your shoulders. Or somebody will say, give me your backpack, I'll take it,
mm,
but you keep moving. So, though it starts physical, ultimately it's all in the mind. Not giving up is in the mind. And that is why some of the greatest stories of success anywhere in the world is when somebody thought the other person is finished, and the other person still gets up and says, no, I'm not finished, I'm going to be there. And one
right,
day a point comes when you sort of, as they say, dar ke aage jeet hai, you reach that point one day. You see, you have to teach young children to have a voice.
mm,
And in that, when they are leaders within that small group, is the matter of choice. They have to take decisions. Do you get me? Somebody has to take
yeah,
decisions, and you got to teach them to take decisions. When they're very small, somebody is taking it for them. Whereas if you give them opportunities to become leaders in small level, small groups, you teach them, okay, take decisions. So
right,
you get good only if you start early
mm,
and practice a lot and give them repeated opportunities. So the number of mistakes they make or the number of setbacks they have start gradually diminishing. And they can see it for themselves. This is working, this is not working.
Right. So, two crucial points there, starting with the physical exertion. We let them do that. And second is giving them a choice. But herein, there is a very important thing for adults to learn, that when a child is given a choice, he may make a wrong decision and there may be failures. Then the adults have to be okay with that failure and not really penalize the child for taking that decision. So, that kind of skill is something
See,
that the parents, the
it's,
educators,
it's like this. You can call it a failure or you can call it a setback.
yeah.
Okay. I mean, there's a famous quote about Einstein. When he got this electric bulb going, he
Hmm.
said, "Look, I didn't fail 10,000 times. It's just that the previous 10,000 times it didn't work. It was not a failure. I had to find
Yeah.
another route of doing it, another way of doing it.
Hmm.
So it's not to be seen as a failure. Secondly, when there is so-called setback or a failure, whatever you call it, there is a sense of disappointment, which
Hmm.
is fair. If you're not disappointed and you're happy with the outcome, you'll never correct yourself. So
Right.
being disappointed is good. What happens is, because of the atmosphere that's created either in a school or at home,
Hmm.
students get dejected. There's a huge
Hmm.
difference between being disappointed and being dejected.
Right.
If you get dejected, you say, forget it, yeah, I'm not going to do this. So
Hmm.
if I get dejected, let's say if go for a elocution competition or something and I don't do well. If I get disappointed, I'll say I'll work hard and I'll come back and make a better speech in future. If I get dejected, I'll say I don't like to speak. I'm not fond of public speaking, and I'll step
Hmm.
out from it. There is this famous story which is a true story about our cricketer Navjot Sidhu, which a lot of people know. I mean, they know the cricketer Navjot Sidhu. There was
Mm-hmm.
a famous article by a sports journalist called Rajan Bala, who once called him a strokeless wonder. He bats, but he
Hmm.
can't make strokes.
Hmm.
That hurt Sidhu very badly. He went back and he kept practicing how to hit sixes and all that. And then he
Hmm.
came back in one of the World Cups or wherever, one of the major tournaments. He became the highest, he hit the maximum number of sixes in that tournament. So he treated it as a disappointment and a setback,
Hmm.
and not as dejection out of failure. So there's a huge difference. But if you have not created this culture of this, having disappointments, setbacks, and coming back with a growth mindset again, ultimately the child will get dejected. So
Hmm.
you will suddenly find a child say, look, I don't like maths. I want to take arts. I don't want to take science, right?
Hmm.
Because you have said, right, so and so is getting 95%. तुम्हें तो 65 ही मिल रहा है. 2 साल से मैं देख रहा हूँ. You have not improved. Then you're
Hmm.
sowing the seeds of dejection, not of disappointment.
Hmm.
And that is a big, big difference. Because there will be more chances in life.
Yeah. So a lot of parents interfere or help the child with the aim that they don't get dejected. But that can also be counterproductive and actually set the stone for them being dejected at a later stage when the parents cannot always be there to help them out. So it's a fine balance between helping them but not really taking ownership for their work, so that they learn to take responsibility themselves.
No, even if parents are there to help them at all times, even if they're available till the age of 50, they will not succeed. You will see how
Hmm.
many famous businesses and industries have died over a period of time. This is when, say, two generations before, somebody has struggled, built it up. This next generation brought it to a high level, and one generation in the next third generation or fourth generation, it just vanishes. Why? It's because the ones who
Even
struggled wanted their
even though they
children
have
to
all
have a
the
comfortable
resources
life. Yeah, they wanted their children to have everything in life easy. So
and
they never saw setbacks, and when a setback or a challenge came, they weren't ready for it. So you go
right.
back in the last 100 years and see which were the top 100 companies of, say, 100 years ago, and see how many of them exist today, or even 50 years ago. How many of them really exist at the same level today? Out of 100, I don't know the exact number, but there won't be more than 20 or 25. Most of them have fallen by the wayside because the third or fourth generation found the growing up years to be too easy.
Mm,
The parents didn't put them in a sense of struggle.
mm,
So when adversity came, they weren't ready for it, which is why right from childhood, as I said, you need to expose them to controlled adversity, which prepares them, which doesn't let them fall too badly, but prepares them for a tougher life ahead.
Right. So that's a critical way of seeing it. They were not given enough adversity. Life was too easy, and hence they did not develop these skills of responsibility, agency, and leadership early on, and therefore they struggle. Yes, that's crucial. So we have been discussing all these ways. So they collectively help build a mental resilience. Or is there a framework that you would suggest to parents and educators as well?
Yes, there is a sequence to it. As I said, the setback you have at the age of 4 is not the same setback at the age of 16. Okay, yes, you try and do a startup, it doesn't work. The setback can be of a different nature. But the atmosphere of facing difficulties, the atmosphere of facing challenges, the atmosphere of accepting setbacks
Mm-hmm.
has to be built up right from childhood. So let's say when a child wants some things to be given, there must be a deal with the child and take the child on board. All right, if you do this, I will buy you this or I'll get you this. Right?
Right.
So that the sense of earning that is there and not something like a entitlement. Yeah, I will get it anyway. Because
Mm-hmm.
in real life, success is not your entitlement. So you can reward even modest successes, small things. If you see your own child without saying anything, picking up a piece of plastic lying somewhere and putting in the dustbin, reward the child by all means. You can reward by recognition. It need not be material things every time. Everybody likes to be appreciated. You just appreciate the child, it's good enough at that point in time. See, because what you're building up is in the child. If you see a paper falling down and you say, Beta, isko uthao, throw it in the dustbin. That's one. The other is because the child has done it when
Mm-hmm.
you were not looking, but you have happen to see it. That satisfaction or that success for a child is even more.
Right. Yeah.
So when we think we are doing good parenting without realizing, very often what we are doing is we are indirectly controlling the child.
Mm.
There are more don'ts than do's that a child faces in life. ये नहीं करना, ये ठीक नहीं है, ये बुराई है.
And you suggest it should be the other way around, sir?
Yeah, because you can turn
Mm.
around what looks like a negative statement into a
Mm.
positive one. Suppose, as I
Mm.
said, when a child is at its most, or a soldier that is most exhausted best and says, साहब अभी हम आगे और नहीं चल सकते हैं. You say, हाँ चल सकते हैं, अभी तो आ ही गया वो आखिरी पोस्ट आ ही गया है, बस और 4-5 कदम की बात है. And after 4-5 km, it's another 4-5 steps, and another, right? Because you're now setting small goals for that person, which the person can see being achieved. And say, see, you thought you couldn't even do this, but you've done 4 steps after that. Now let's try a fifth one, let's try a sixth one.
Right.
But not saying that, look, because of you, our company is going to lose. If you stop here, look at the harm that will happen. We'll come second. We've come first for the last 5 years. You see, a lot depends on how you uh, position a
Mm.
situation to a person.
Mm.
It's that famous glass half full or half empty kind of thing. It's how you position the thing. So you got to be optimistic. You got to create a sense of optimism in the child. There is a disappointment, there is a setback, but my optimism and my growth mindset will take me in the right direction. I will do it one day, not now, but I'll do it another day.
So we have a few scenarios from our parents community, and I would request you to guide us how to handle these scenarios.